Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank weekend preview brought to you by First NBC Bank. First NBC Bank is a proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. Well, March Madness is underway, and of course UNO was eliminated in the opening round. No other Louisiana teams alive, but great basketball. Watch it, enjoy it. NAIA tournament, congratulations to the Loyola men and women, both eliminated at the national tournament. Dillard still alive. The men continuing to play extremely well under Mike Newell. Stay tuned for that. And obviously, hopefully, some more good news will come from that. Speaking of basketball, the Pelicans are back in action. They went to Miami, played competitive, but couldn't get any stops and lost to, really, in my mind, what might be the second best team in the East right now. The Miami Heat were playing great. So Pelicans back in action. And it's against a team that they don't match up well against, the Houston Rockets.
No, that's the problem. And look, I think some of the things that you've seen here in terms of stories in the last few days say a lot. To expect that all of a sudden you were going to have this miracle change just by acquiring DeMarcus Cousins is clearly not the case. And if you'd just had him and kept all your other parts in place, then maybe. But getting rid of three pieces of your backcourt, which now not only have you totally changed how your front court's going to play, but now you've totally changed your backcourt rotation in the process. Look, to expect this to come together in the middle of the season when you're not practicing is just unrealistic. You know, it's almost a given at this point. The Pelicans are not going to make the playoffs. It'll be interesting to see how far they fall. Could they possibly, the ping pong balls fall right and they sneak into the lottery and keep that top 3 pick? Mm-hmm. Now that would really make things interesting, and of course we've seen the reports that have been put out there about perhaps there's going to be changes at the end of this year. Read Ed Daniels' piece at SportsNOLA.com with his thoughts on what is going on as well. I think anything is in play at this point, and if something does change, I think based on what you have in place with those two big guys, you're going to attract a great pool of candidates.
Yeah, two things here. Number one, Sacramento's experienced the same thing the Pelicans have experienced. They've fallen apart. You can't make these kind of changes deep into a season and expect to have results immediately. Number two, it is not, remember you heard it here, it is not out of the question that changes will be made in both top spots at the top of the Pelicans organization. Yes, the heat is on Alvin Gentry, and it's really not fair to a degree, but the heat is on Dell Demps too, and it should be at this particular point in time based upon the amount of time that he's had to put an organization together.
Well, as Ed said in his story, he's been in place 7 years now, and they won a grand total of 2 playoff games in that span. What does that say? I think that's a long enough body of work. So I think anything should be in play at this point in terms of considerations of changes.
Yeah, and a lot of things, bouncing balls out there in terms of names. You hear it all the time. But keep in mind, they've got a guy, Danny Ferry, already in place that's had experience at this level too. So you cannot dismiss that moving forward. With respect to the Saints, nothing yet to report. It's still out there. They met with Malcolm Butler. Nothing's happened yet. And you even had one particular rumor that the Saints dispelled via social media, although I wouldn't totally dismiss it because I've said it all along. Could the Patriots end up with their 32nd pick back in their own fold? It could happen. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, if that's the case, why didn't you just make all this part of one deal?
Well, first of all, Butler could not be part of that deal until he actually signed a tender. Right. So he wasn't the property of the Patriots at that point. Yeah. He can, they've got the right to make that offer to him as a restricted free agent. Here's the other thing to keep in mind. You got other people out there saying, well, why don't the Saints just sign him to an offer sheet? If the Patriots decline it, now you've got to give up the 11th pick. You've got to give up your first-round pick for them. So this is clearly going to have to be, to use. And look, we've seen a lot of NBA-type moves already in this new free agency year, with especially the Brock Osweiler deal. That smells so much like an NBA move. You could really see a sign and trade here is what it amounts to. They will sign him, and then they will trade him at that point. So. Let's see how it all plays out. It was interesting the way the Saints phrased the reply to this report, basically saying nothing official has happened. That tells me where there's smoke, there's fire.
No doubt about it. So what you're saying is do what the Hornets/Pelicans should have done with Eric Gordon when Alvin Gentry was the coach of the Phoenix Suns a few years ago, right?
Yes, do the sign and trade. Of course, the Pelicans or the Hornets at that point would have been on the giving side of that deal.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Interesting dynamic certainly as we move forward. College baseball LSU swings into SEC action this weekend, coming off of their second loss of the year to UNO. And people have asked the question about that. LSU's weekend pitching is really good, but now their closer's down too for a couple of weeks. Their midweek pitching is a problem. And if you're going to get a top 8 national seed, you got to win midweek games.
It comes down to this. So you're right. You got to win midweek games, but LSU's got to focus on the 30-game SEC grind. If they win the SEC, they're going to be a top 8 national seed. Obviously, their weekend pitching is still very good. They've been getting hit with some injuries. Look, this is not – keep in mind this when you think about LSU. They didn't have 35 on their roster when they started the year. So anybody going down for any length of time just lessens your depth. Now, keep this in mind, too, as well. When SEC play, you're not allowed to use your full 35-man roster. You've got to designate, I believe it's 25 or 27 guys who are on your roster for an SEC weekend, so you're leaving guys off anyway.
Tulane got it on a win over Nichols. Good to see them get a win. And, of course, we mentioned UNO and their success. And then there's Southeastern, who's really playing well. And when we talked to Matt Reiser when we were over in Hammond a couple of weeks ago, they had just lost to Vanderbilt but he liked the way his team played. They competed very well on the road against an elite program, and I think we're seeing evidence of that.
And, look, they're playing good people out of conference. I think when they got left out a couple of years ago because really they had no top 50 wins, they've gone about the process of scheduling much better. And kudos to Matt Reiser and Daniel Latham and everybody involved with the Southeastern baseball program for the approach they've taken. They're playing very well. Look, Louisiana Tech is playing very well. You talk about big series. La Tech Southern Miss this weekend in Ruston might be for who's the best team in Conference USA. That's right. I know Rice is in the league, but they're having a down year. Could be, the winner of that series might be who you put your hat on as the early favorite heading into the Conference USA race.
High school baseball continues. We'll have a radio broadcast Saturday as St. Paul's takes on Archbishop Shaw at 6 p.m. at Winterscheid Stadium. 5:45 pregame. That's WGSO 990 AM with Danny Ream and I. And we'll have that one for you. And then, of course, our first NBC Prep Showcase will continue next week in baseball, but it will also continue with bowling.
You said that, bowling. We've got the New Orleans area regional Monday live at SportsNOLA.com. Watch it here. I think we know the two guys who are going to do that broadcast. 1 o'clock airtime. If you've not watched high school bowling, let me tell you, the bowling in this area is really improved. We got some really good talent on the lanes in this area. And, of course, you start talking about high school bowling, you got to start with Brother Martin, who's got now a 46-match winning streak. They have not lost a match in 3 years, and they are the favorites once again to win the state title. But the road to winning a state title starts on Monday, and we'll have it for you right here.
No doubt about it. And we'll have baseball next week, too.
That's right. John Curtis, Brother Martin starts the Catholic League schedule Tuesday night. Kirsch Rooney, watch it here live 7 o'clock on SportsNOLA.com. Wednesday at 4:30 on WHNO TV 20.
I'm dizzy from all of this, but it's all good. It's where you get all the information at SportsNOLA.com. Lenny, have a great weekend.
You too. Happy St. Patrick's Day out there, everybody. Y'all be safe.
All right. That's our first NBC Bank weekend preview presented by First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny and you. Have a great weekend, and God bless you.